You're listening to Ecosysteming, the podcast redefining economic development through the lens of equitable entrepreneurship, 2 decades in the making. Join NC Idea's Tom Rue as he engages with entrepreneurs and experts who are challenging the status quo and driving lasting change.
Welcome, listeners of NC Idea's Ecosysteming podcast. Today, it is my great joy and pleasure to introduce one of our. Now, I got to be careful, like a parent that doesn't want to say they have favorite children, right? But one of our, I'll just say for me personally, one of my favorite funded companies, because you all kind of came into our universe about a year after I started. So I started in 2016. And I think LoanWell got its first grant from us in 2017. But before I already start telling the story, let me finish by introducing the great pleasure of the guest I have to speak to today, which is Bernard Worthy, who is co-founder and CEO of LoanWell, which is an automated loan and grant origination platform with end-to-end functionality for intake, underwriting, closing, servicing, and reporting. Did I get that part of it right?
You got it, man. You got it. Hey, I can put you on a sales call or something. That'd be good. Tom, it's a real pleasure. Obviously, we get to kind of co-work near each other at our headquarters here at Provident 1898, which is a huge reason why we moved here about a year ago, is to be close to folks that have been a big part of our story. But when we're not sharing time in the hallways, this is a little bit more intentional, a little bit more professional. So I've been looking forward to this. This is good.
Now, you said time in the hallways. I think you cleaned that up because I think we actually share. I think we share commentary in a more specific space of common area,
close to the hallway.
Close to the hallway, of for sure. But that is to your point, though, that there is something to be said about proximity, right? And being in a place where you can have those chance encounters, because we both are apparently committed to staying hydrated. And so I think that's part of the magic, where it happens. And I think, we both owe a debt of gratitude to our friends at Provident for creating such a space. And I know, since we've moved here over 3 years ago now, it's, for us, it's also like we have to have an office somewhere, right? And I got to pay rent to someone.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of those areas where if you look how to leverage your spending anyhow to greater purpose, that's, why we're so happy to be here and be part of this community. So
no, I couldn't have said it better. I mean, Carl continues to surprise me, and he's one of the kind of Durham OGs that I look to, especially as a young Black male in these spaces, as someone who has traversed many boundaries and communities to be successful in many different ways. And so this place felt like a nod to the respect to him. But then I get to meet his staff, Tyra and Peter and the team that are here, and you realize this place is special. And I've got nothing against the other co-working spaces. I think lots of they're, you can get your fill in different ways, and we've been a part of many other spaces along the way. And I'm sure we'll talk about that, but we're really happy to be here.
yeah, I'm right there with you. And I'll also give some love to Carl because he's been very patient with me. And, he's kind of my guide on this journey. And I don't have the obvious connection that you do, but we have a mutual commitment to strengthening the community. And so, based upon my position in this organization, I benefit immensely from Carl's experience, who can take me in a quiet moment when, truth be told, we might be imbibing in a certain libation that I have here in the back of my office. And it's those, it's those after hours moments where you have quiet and, where you can kind of sit and think aloud,
The clink clink matters. It's good.
a little clink clink. But yeah, he has been invaluable in guiding, me and some of my thinking and the relationships, the intentionality of the relationships we try to build. So
Amen.
I will join, his choir of admirers in saying that. Um, we again, one of the challenges I have talking to somebody like you that we have a history. I take so much of our relationship for granted that I have to remember when we're doing this podcast that a lot of the listeners tuning in don't. So I am going to ask you for a little bit of.
Yeah.
So tell me, about LoanWell. Tell me about the history. Also, and I'll tee you up because I did my homework, and I went into our archives, our CRM system, and I was reminded. I mean, I remembered it, but not until I read it. Like before you were LoanWell, you were Loanable,
Yeah.
if memory serves. And so, why don't we start at the days of Loanable?
It's not many people that they actually have that in their CRM. We tried to scrape Google for all the early days stuff. No, this is good. So LoanWell is an automated lending platform. You spoke about it. But automated lending platform, we're using AI to help lenders deploy more capital more efficiently and to make decisions faster. And like our unique angle here is that more affordable capital for all is really important in all communities. And that could look like and does look like in our platform, farmers in, the middle of the country. It looks like the most cutting edge businesses in California to, your coffee shop in the southeast of the country. Um, we get the great pleasure of working with these lenders that are specific to their purpose. They're mission driven lenders, they're community lenders that that offer below market rate, loans and financing products to small businesses all over. And they use our software to do that in a way that tries to make it a little bit more profitable than it is. It's not a profitable endeavor. A lot of the money that they lend out needs to be subsidized by philanthropic capital and sometimes government funding. But if we can help them go faster, which is our North Star, we increase our impact. More coffee shops get served. More solopreneurs get that 20K that they need to get moving and attract the next tranche of customers. And so we take really great pride in that work and in the software and uh, the bits and the parts that make it as fast as possible for them to do their jobs well.
Now, what was the impetus of the idea? Was this like something were you in the industry and you saw a gap? You're like, wow, this is really inefficient. And, then a hypothesis. And because it's inefficient, we're probably underserving, you know, big swath of the population that could benefit from this, or am I just making an assumption out of facts, not in evidence?
No, no, it's good. I mean, I think this goes back to your first question, like what is our origin story here? My co-founder and I, so Justin Straight, is my co-founder and COO and CFO and lots of other hats that we all wear as startup founders. But Justin had a background in microfinance and did that overseas in a number of different areas, working with Hope International. So great nonprofit organization doing amazing work in Ukraine, Haiti, all over Africa. And he had the great pleasure of starting banks, credit unions, savings and loans associations, and many different countries around the world. He came back from that work and was just like, man, in some ways, America's behind. Like we're moving money easier, faster. We're financing people when they need it, how they need it, and it's like there's a gap in service to our communities here in the states. And I was coming out of a period in my career where I was learning how to code. Went to a code school here in Durham and graduated from Carolina. Was a Robertson scholar. Had kind of the business acumen, but really wanted to build. What it really wanted to build product. Wanted to get into technology, and we were on a drive to Hill Country in Texas for a retreat, and didn't know we would both be on this drive together. But we just started talking about those experiences, technology, and then this gap in financing. And LoanWell started in the back of that car, to be honest. We didn't realize we were both third generation entrepreneurs. Our families were in the trades. So painting, concrete, plumbing, the stuff where you get scars because you're working really hard in this stuff. Um, and also the types of businesses where, not having the financing you need in one quarter is really, really detrimental from a cash flow standpoint, where people are working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. Right. And that was my story growing up. My father was working 3 jobs, when I was under the age of 5, to make it work. And he then had to leave the family business for more stability. In a union, and became an amazing superintendent for a plumbing company in Atlanta. But those early years, he couldn't make the family business work, and so we shared these stories of like access to capital in the right moments matters a ton. It is completely transformative. It is catalytic, and really the difference was access. Like it wasn't the business, it wasn't performance, it was access at the time that you needed it. And my co-founder is a white male. His family businesses had the access that my family didn't, and there's no shade. I'm just pointing out the facts. And we sought to, in that moment, kind of hopefully change that. And that was the impetus for the company. We then later stumbled on to what is the CDFI industry, and we realized there are a lot of people who shared that vision, but just didn't have great tech. So back to your point of, the efficiency wasn't there to kind of get the dollars out and to vet the deals as best possible to provide that access. But we came from a shared place.
Speaking of shared place, I've always had a sense of kinship with you and Justin. He's very good people as well. And I think there are probably multiple reasons for it, but one of them is I think this shared value that through our corporate, entities, we are both working to level the playing field. You doing that, seeing that gap, that disparity in the funding landscape, and we are likewise, with our focus on ecosystem and really making space for people that have historically not had the same advantages, not had the same access, networks, debt capacity, things like that. And I think, I know this is a little frou-frou psychology take from me, but I think whenever you're with people where you share values, you just have this natural kinship that already, advances the relationship. And hearing you articulate that, I just had that epiphany. Like, yeah, that's what we're in the business of doing, is leveling the playing field.
I mean, the reality, Tom, like my superpower as a founder is my intuition. Like that's my thing. That helps drive my decision making individually, helps drive my decision making as a manager on the team at LoanWell and as an executive and board member. Um, all the data, all the time, but my intuition is like an overriding factor. And it's very clear when you share those values with people. And what's kind of cool about, I think, the work that we get to do, albeit difficult many days, and I think everybody can kind of commiserate with that who's kind of in this social impact space. The reality is, you may be completely drained at the end of the day. And I've got 3 little girls, all under the age of 6. And so I am completely drained at the end of the day because I go home to 2 hours of play. But you still have this sense that the things that you're moving forward actually matter, you know?
Right.
And I think what's cool about my work, even though I wouldn't have guessed that I would be in this, leaving the business school at Carolina, what's cool about this work is like legacy and kind of going back to Carl, right? Legacy is intertwined in my day to day in a way that I don't have to conjure it. You know what I mean? Like this is work that I feel proud of every single day. And my girls will at some point feel proud of this work. But also, I think this work matters to our communities. And if this work didn't happen, Um, I literally just before this got a scam call from someone trying to scam me into not serving in jury duty. And I thought to myself, like, we need more advocates for our communities so that there's better access, there's better affordability, there's less scamming going on, and there's a lot of scamming and lending. And if we can serve this greater purpose of the most affordable capital in all communities, I can rest my head not just every night, but long term. I can rest my head on that. And I think that kinship is clear with you and a lot of your colleagues.
Yeah, I think one of the more underappreciated, values is this notion of what's been referred to as enlightened self-interest, right? The concept of enlightened self-interest says, I don't always have to win at somebody else's expense. It's the collective saying that, if we all just do a little bit for the common good, we all benefit from it. That seems to be in short supply at the moment, and I'm sure I'm hoping it's a temporary indication of the times and that we ebb and flow. I think we're in a down one, but I'm really happy you brought up your girls and like how they're going to look at this legacy because you said you're third generation. My children, they're adults, so you have, 3 under 6, did you say?
Yeah, yeah. 5.5 is EVG, Evelyn Grace. I've got a 2-year-old. That's Maya Lou. And then I've got Layla Marie, who's 5 months old. She's giving us a run for our money right
Well, I've got a 31-year-old, a 30-year-old, and a 27-year-old, and I will tell you, they too grew up in a house with a crazy dad
now.
who every 3 to 5 years started a new company or sold a company or did something crazy in that space, and I think beyond just I'm sure y'all being super parents, I think, raising kids with an entrepreneurial mindset where they see their parents are doing something different, right? I used to like bring my kids to the offices of my past startups all the time. We would host big events at our house. We were very much into hosting events and I'd put my kids to work and they've helped me move offices and paint offices and they grew up with the companies and they also understood like the lean times where there were the occasional years when we were really trying to fund something that Santa Claus was a cheap SOB that year. But there were years like coinciding when dad was leaving one company to go do something else where he was very lavish with the gifts, right? And only later in life did they kind of put together, oh, those kind of coincided with exits and things like that. But it always gave them a different frame of mind than their peer groups, right? And our kids, as I'm sure is the case with your girls, like they were the ones that the parents of their friends admired and would say, "Hey, we'd like to have your kids off over more often." Right. Or if they were staying, we were one of those houses where everybody hung out. It also was because just the logistics. We lived in this subdivision that was attached to the civic center, which also happened to be where the high school was. So
Nice.
like my all three of my kids did all kinds of sports, so it was just easier to come over to the Ruse for after school, eating me out of house and home and everything else. But I think it's that mindset that empowers people to think differently. And I think you give your kids a great gift
Mm.
by doing that. And I know you're doing that because I met your family. I met some of your extended members of the family one weekend here in the office.
Well, I was gonna say all that sounds familiar because we started doing this maybe 2 years ago. Where and I can't remember who told me to try this. One of my mentors was like, try to incorporate your work travel with your family travel as much as you can. And so ever since, if we've got a work trip that's in driving distance, like I bring the family. And sometimes that requires just we were just in Charleston. It requires me to bring some in-laws too, or bring my parents along the way just to help out. Um, but we try to bring the family along, and so when we pass Provident, my girls know that's Daddy's work. And I think you talked about the pros of that, and you met my girls at a panel that we hosted together. And so they were there kind of seeing daddy on stage and like they take pride in that. And that's huge. But there's also, I think it's important to kind of call out the like balance piece. The balance is not always there, to your point. Like there are ebbs and flows. And I think that's important for them to see when daddy's really stressed out,
Oh, yeah.
when things aren't working well, when the story is not rosy because that's most of the days. Um, and when they see that, like, with help and with prayer and faith and other things, like, daddy can get over that too. And, uh, and we talk about resilience a lot at our house. And what does resilience look like for our girls? And each of them are already very, very different. And it's like, what is the thing that helps you get over that mental or physical, boundary? And I think it's a great analogy for entrepreneurship. There are so many um, things that will come, into your pathway that if we don't have good intuition, good gut instinct, and the resilience to get through those things, it's gonna be a tough road. It's gonna be a tough road anyway. Uh, but if you don't have those things, I think it's really difficult. And if you don't find a way to incorporate your family in a way that's healthy, I think it's hard for it to be sustainable. So I didn't think we talk about family as much at the start here, but man, this is like if you know me well, that's what I care about most.
Well, that's what's important, right? And I'll tell you my very quickly, my family seeing me in that light story, and hopefully never to be repeated, was I was part of a venture-backed, very large, like 160 million venture investment company that was imploding in 2001, and I was one of the last standing executives. Like that year, we were at a peak, like 600 employees, and I was being tasked to fly around the country and lay off, big chunks of offices. And that the nickname that I had during that year was the Angel of Death. So, like, oh no, Tom's coming, into Dallas today. How many of us are going to lose the job? And it finally culminated. The pull the plug. The VCs just said, "That's it, we're done." Believe it or not, 9/11.
Wow.
So on 9/11, I'm on phone with headquarters. It's in Alexandria, Virginia. The phone gets disconnected because they said something like, "We're being bombed." Little did I know that a plane had just gone into the Pentagon, 10 minutes from their office. I get up out of, my office to find nobody's at their desk. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I still hadn't seen till I walked into the cafeteria, and the 40-ish employees we had left, they were all in there staring at the television screen, seeing the smoldering towers. And on that day, I had to take everybody into a room and say, we knew it was coming. Like, it was anticlimactic in the sense that, it was no secret. We had tried desperately to stay afloat, but the VCs just pulled the plug. And in some weird hindsight sort of way, surreal sort of way, everybody saw, like, everybody knew fundamentally the world had changed in a very big material way. So that the fact that I just lost my job today
Yeah,
was somehow a little bit less,
with a little less. Yeah.
right? But still, like, my kids having this, like, I had to stay in the office all day. They evacuated downtown Cleveland because the Pennsylvania airplane that ended up crashing had flown through, was seen flying through Cleveland airspace with F-16s chasing it.
Wow.
And just, you know, like, they had to see me kinda deal with, the finance companies that were coming to repo equipment and do all that housekeeping stuff, and those were long, hard days. And so my kids got to see, like, how I had to process that, right? And it gives them context now when hardship, is inevitable in everybody's life. I think we give them more than we realize by letting them see us handle these experiences.
That's a good word, man. It's a good word. I'll try to convince my wife of that next time that I'm doing a late night.
It's a balance. It's a balance, but I can say, my wife and I have survived 36 years of it.
Oh, congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah, but it does take work. It definitely takes work.
I don't think that answered your question about like the earliest days, like going back to LoanWell. I'm happy to go back there and like kind of tell
Please.
the full start. So, I mean, we had the kind of the impetus for the company But really, what happened, and I think this is important to tell this piece. A lot of people have this fallacy about how startups work, but a lot of them start very slowly, go very slowly, grow very slowly, and exit very slowly. Like it is not an overnight thing. It just doesn't happen. Um, at least it doesn't happen the majority of the time. And I think it's important to kind of tell that. So my story with this is like, yes, we had that idea in 20, I don't know, early 17. We didn't start the LLC loanable to your credit and memory until April of 2017. And this was just a midnight oil thing. Like, Justin and I were just working on the side. We had our jobs. We were trying to, take some weekend time. We were both, at least I didn't have kids yet. I think Justin maybe had the twins. But we were just trying to make it work. And I think it's important to share that part of the story. Like, it is totally okay and appropriate to vet the business idea, before um, taking a huge leap on in terms of your financial security, because there's a moment where you will have to test your financial security personally, and you want to test that in the right moment, not at every moment. So it is appropriate to totally kind of vet and de-risk the idea while you have funding in other ways, and that was certainly a part of our story. Then we get a call from Adam Klein, who was at American Underground at the time, now at Duke as an AVP there. Um, and he says, "Hey, there's this Google program that I think you guys should apply to. I think you'd have a good chance of getting in, and it would like help kickstart some of the ideas that you guys have been sharing with me." And I'm like, "Oh man, this is like the moment where are you ready to send the duckling out? Are you ready to, get out there?" It's every entrepreneur has that moment where, am I okay to be exposed? And that was our moment. And we decided to apply, and we got into this Google for Entrepreneurs at the time, now Google for Startups program, specifically for Black founders here in Durham. And that ran for a long time, maybe 6, 7 years at the American Underground, but we were the first group, first or second, something like that. And I remember at the end of this very intense week of pitching investors and all this stuff, we get on stage to do our kind of final presentation and pitch. Um, and I get up there and I have this very performative side of me that when the lights are on, like I'm at my best. And had a great pitch, had some good follow up after this. But I realized like in that moment, that day, like the rest of my life would be different. We were like, "Oh, we just launched this thing. Like now we gotta go prove it. We gotta go do it, and we're excited by it." It's not the midnight oil thing anymore. And we were fortunate enough second time around with you all at NC Idea to get a grant. Um, that 50K, like that was a very intense process. The application and the vetting and the interviews and the rounds. But man, that was our first check. And I couldn't, and you've heard me say this many, many times, but like we would not exist if it weren't for that first check from NC Idea. And that it wasn't even about the money. It was actually just the validation from a third party. And I think this is another like story that I have to share, especially for founders that may look like me, come from non-traditional backgrounds in this space, kind of high scale tech. Like validation from a third party is like the thing that I have leveraged the most across my entire tenure at LoanWell. If it's NC Idea with that first check, that help we leverage that to then raise a friends and family round with some folks that didn't really know anything about the concept, but they saw that NC Idea, who funds startups that are successful, funded us, and that helped us get the 200K a little bit later, or earlier the next year in 2018. That 200K helped me go full time on the business. Another one of those moments where you're putting your personal finances to the test, but we were ready. We had some traction at that point where I was willing to make that leap. And so my wife funded me for, a year. My parents funded me for another year after that. And we were just trying to make it work. But we leveraged each one of those moments to the next fundraising round or the next deal or whatever it might be. American Underground as as a location was our home for 10 years. And I can't tell you how much that mattered, from Groundwork Labs in the early days of just incubation with John Austin, who's now with you guys at NC Idea again, coming out of retirement, which is great. To the lunches and bumping into other startups that just got funding or launched a new product and sharing and swapping notes, just being in proximity, kind of going back to the beginning of your conversation. I think that's what's so special about this ecosystem, but also ecosystems at large. Like if this is baked into the model, the proximity piece where we actually have to rub shoulders and run into each other in the hallway to kind of share experience, I think that it makes all the difference. And so we're a product of this space in so many different ways. We continue to leverage all of those third party associations to this day, and I think it's a big it's a not just a big part of our story. It's something that we want to make sure that we share to other startups as they're growing.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to double click on, because any aspiring entrepreneur listening to this podcast right now, I would say to you, full stop, that Bernard Worthy is a quintessential example of how you leverage an ecosystem. You could teach a master class on it. And there's a certain wonderful irony that you went from, using and extracting maximum value from an ecosystem to now you are a significant asset. And you personally, as a mentor, as, an aspirational spirit animal for a lot of people out there, right? In addition, including us that have supported y'all, like, right? You know how the adage goes, right? The really successful companies have many, many parents, and the unsuccessful ones die as orphans.
Mm, mm.
So there's a lot of us rooting on here because we want to take a little bit of bragging rights for understandable reasons. But you really have been very masterful at that. And as I was prepping for the call, I was about to give you the GOAT title as being the most successful in extracting funding from us, but somebody did beat you in that, right? Because not only did you get a $50,000 seed grant from us, you later in 2022 got from the Black Entrepreneurship Council a $75,000 growth grant. So that, by my math, is 100 and a quarter.
Yeah.
But Abby from Smart Girls HQ in Charlotte, I don't think we had micro grant in 2017.
I want to go back. I want to micro.
She started, and so she got the micro grant, the seed grant, and the growth grant. So she's got you by 10 grand, but you are in very rare company, to be certain. But again, all kidding aside, it's because you've understood how to leverage that. And here's the reason I'm being obnoxious on this point is, I have done ecosystem building globally. So not only coast to coast, but around the world. And I can say definitively, we have a special ecosystem or collective of multiple ecosystems in the state of North Carolina. I am not here by accident. I'm here very intentionally because of what we have, but what we've also built and what we intend to continue to build. And so people don't always appreciate it, and they wonder, like, why aren't they having greater success? But they're not putting in the effort to leverage the ecosystem. Back in those early days, you did show up for those luncheons that we used to fund at American Underground because they were our landlord back then too. And, so many people that were over there, they go right to the pizza boxes, grab 3 slices, and then they go back to their office, right? And not listen to the speakers or rub, shoulders with other people in the room. You were always curious. You were always engaging and asking and being present. And again, this may sound like I'm just fawning all over you, but I really want to make it from a nutritional value, like the example, like that's what it takes,
Mm,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
You've leveraged that. So my encouragement to anybody listening is, be a Bernard in that regard, because you really could teach a master class on it.
It's high praise, Tom. Thank you for saying that. I think the piece for me is funny. You say that, and I think there's so many gaps in like how I do it, and so that'll just tell you a lot about me. But I think the piece that for me that I would want to impart on other founders is like it's really hard to quote unquote give back as you're building, right? Like reach back as you're climbing is just really difficult. And I've got this current uh, I don't know. I would say that folks know me here at Provident for running from my office to the bathroom and then coming back to take more calls because that's just like what my schedule and calendar look like right now. But like, it is difficult to climb and then reach back at the same time. And I think what we often don't do a good job of is figuring out what does it look like sustainably for you to do that, and not put too much pressure on ourselves to be more than we ought to. Because at the end of the day, right, I am the chairman of the board at LoanWell Incorporated. If we do not exist, thrive, and grow, then it's going to be very difficult for us to have these opportunities to share our story, right? We wouldn't exist otherwise. And so there's a priority in what we're doing, but it is a piece that I value along the way. How do we give back? How do we reach back? How do we participate? How do we bring other folks along? Um, I think one thing that I wanted to share here at the end, especially as you were kind of talking about like the switch between us leveraging the ecosystem and now being an asset to the ecosystem. We don't take that for granted, but there's a lot of products and new strategies that we have at LoanWell that folks might not know about us that I would love to just kind of put out there as new resources. Speaking about kind of giving back and what that looks like as we grow. Um, and we've got a product that is, we think, a lending tree for good type of model that is effectively a marketplace for small businesses to get connected directly with the most affordable and the most suitable capital for their business at the time. And so folks can go to marketplace.loanwell.com and do a very quick loan application where we're using all of our tech to kind of match you with the right lenders nationwide in our space that are either a part of our ecosystem already or otherwise would want to be because of the leads that we can kind of bring them. But the idea being, instead of applying to a lending tree, instead of applying to an on deck, instead of applying to some of these other online lenders out there that may have interest rates that are not the best suited for your stage of business, for your cash flow management, or frankly, you just might want a more affordable product, right? Um, we want to be an alternative to that. And just for a second, I think it's important for your audience and my audience and all audiences to know that merchant cash advances, it's a type of loan product out there, especially with online lenders, where they can go really fast and give you a loan um, and underwrite you, even if your cash flow isn't great or your credit isn't great. But at the end of the day, the devil is in the details. And if you're paying a loan back daily, weekly, the interest rate is likely not what you expect. And what I have seen personally with some of these small businesses out there, some even here in Durham, that we have helped out to refinance some of this debt, is that it's debilitating. And so this product, for years we've been building tools for other lenders. And this is us stepping out a bit and saying, "Hey, we think that we have some best practice and we have some technology that can compete head to head with some of these online lenders to go fast and underwrite quickly with great, tech. We want to do that for the industry as well." And this is our opportunity to do that. And if a small business can, instead of applying to one of those other online lenders with those really bad rates, can apply to our marketplace and get connected to a 13% interest rate, over 5 years for the capital that they need. That's much more healthy and sustainable. We think that this is the version of our product that will be able to scale our impact the most. So we're still the kind of operating system behind the scenes for a lot of lenders out there doing amazing work. We've deployed more than $700 million in capital through our partners over our 5 years at LoanWell and served, 50,000 plus small businesses. But this is the version of us alongside that that we think we really can kind of punch above our weight class for our industry and present an alternative that is a healthier financing option for small businesses all around the country. So I appreciate the platform to kind of say that, but like this is where leveraging the ecosystem, yes, but now we want to be an asset and we want to kind of call on the ecosystem to say, can you be a referral partner with us? Can you bring small businesses that need good, proper products for their financing to help them grow into this space? And we have referral partnerships, and we pay our refers quite well. So we'd love to talk to you. Please reach out to us. Please check out marketplace.loanwell.com. We really think that this is the next version of our growth.
And I appreciate you kind of wrapping us at that point, because my closing point that I'll take an indulgence to point out is, I've been beating this drum for last 20 years. We need to rethink what economic development means,
Hmm.
on a much broader scale. I think the data is very established that, these large financial tax incentives and giveaways for big established companies to move here is diminishing returns, to put it, I think, politely. And if you really redefine economic development with entrepreneurship, you can support companies like LoanWell that not only start a good company, create good jobs. I mean, what are you guys up to? Almost 20 employees now,
Yep. Yep.
right? Um, create tax base, create wealth for, founders and investors, all that good stuff. Here you're creating an asset that helps other businesses, right? So the net impact is a factor, a multitude above just the raw numbers of job creation, revenue, tax. Like, it is even more to the benefit of the common good. It goes back to, we'll end it the way we started, right? That's enlightened self-interest.
Yeah.
Because we're realizing what we do to support this, that supports more people, is good for everybody.
So true. So true.
So with that, I'm going to thank you. I know I'd like to point out, like, hey, how many mutual connections do you think we have? We've got a lot, because we overlap a lot. But for those of you who do listen with some loyalty, the official number for Bernard and I are 244 mutual connections on LinkedIn
Strong.
alone.
Strong.
That is a good network game right there. But thanks again, Bernard, for just being the awesome human being, the awesome entrepreneur that you are, for the work and the leap of faith that you and Justin took on that started on that faithful car ride.
Yeah.
Credit to you both for having the vision to make that happen in reality. And I look forward to bumping into you more in the hallway, as we'll say.
In the hallway. Thanks, Tom. This was a real pleasure, man.
Cool. Take care.
Stay connected with NC Idea on LinkedIn and Facebook, and subscribe to our newsletter for all the latest as we celebrate our 20th year. Catch new episodes of Ecosysteming every other Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in and being a part of this thing of ours.